The conference hall on Viridian Prime was full of noise. More than 100 different alien species were there, all talking at once. They were discussing trade deals and business contracts like they did every month. Ambassador Kelthir of the Zinthari Empire sat at his desk, looking through the schedule for the day. The humans were supposed to give their report at noon. They always came on time. They never missed a meeting, but today they did not show up. Kelthir waited for 15 minutes, then 30. Still no humans. He looked around the hall and saw other ambassadors checking their communication devices. Something was wrong. Commander Vexlar, a reptile-like alien from the Score hegemony, walked over to Kelthir's desk. His claws clicked on the floor as he moved. "This is strange," Vexlar said. "The humans are never late. Have you heard from them?" Kelthir shook his head. His three eyes narrowed with worry. In the 73 years that humans had been part of the Galactic Council, they had never missed a single meeting. They were known for being on time, always ready, always prepared. This was not like them at all. "Try calling them again," Kelthir told his young assistant. The assistant worked quickly at his console, pressing buttons and checking screens. After a few minutes, he looked up at Kelthir. His face showed fear. "Sir, I cannot reach them. Earth is not responding. Neither are the human colonies on New Detroit, Harmony Station, or the Armstrong settlements. All their communication channels are silent." Vexlar moved closer. "What about their military ships?" "They have patrol vessels everywhere." The assistant checked again. "Nothing, Commander. The patrol ships, the cargo ships, even the diplomatic cruiser that was coming here yesterday, all of them are silent. It is like they all disappeared." Kelthir felt cold. Humans controlled 47 star systems. They had the second largest fleet in the galaxy. Their population was over 90 billion people. Species with that many people did not just vanish. It was impossible. "Send scout ships to the Sol system right now," Kelthir ordered. "And call an emergency council meeting. Everyone needs to know about this." The news spread quickly through the station. At first, some ambassadors thought it was a joke. Others thought there must be a technical problem with the communication systems. But as the hours passed, the truth became clear. Every human colony, every human ship, every human station had gone silent at the same time. No distress calls, no warnings, no messages at all. Just silence. On a small station near the gas giant Helios 7, Captain Jake Murphy had been drinking his morning coffee when the power flickered. He worked at a mining operation run by humans. The miners below had suddenly stopped sending their daily reports. Their machines had stopped transmitting data. Everything had simply stopped. On a trading ship called Meridian's Hope, Lieutenant Helen Brooks ran onto the bridge. She was breathing hard. Helen was human, and she was the only human on the ship. The rest of the crew were from different alien species. Her captain was a bird-like alien named Tishra. "Captain," Helen said, her voice shaking, "I cannot reach anyone. Not my family on Earth, not my sister on Mars, not even the automated signal beacons. They are all gone." Captain Tishra's feathers stood up straight. "Are the communication systems broken?" "No, ma'am. The channels are working fine. There is just nothing on the other end. It is like knocking on a door and finding an empty house." Within a few hours, panic started to spread through the galaxy. The Zinthari sent their fastest ships to check on human space. The Score turned on their long-range sensors. The Luminar, who were made of living crystal, pointed their telescopes toward human territory. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. The first scout ship reached Earth 36 hours after the silence began. What they found made no sense at all. Earth was still there. The cities were intact and the lights were on. The space stations floated in their normal positions. Satellites continued to orbit the planet. Ships sat in the docking bays, looking perfectly maintained and ready to fly. But there were no humans anywhere. No bodies. No signs of fighting. No evidence that anyone had left in a hurry. The scout ship crew found coffee that was still warm in cups on the Earth Defense Station. In New York City, restaurants had plates of food on the tables, half-eaten. On Luna Base, a playground had toys scattered on the ground, as if children had been playing there just moments before. The humans had simply stopped existing from one second to the next. When the scout ship's report came back to the council, Kelthir read it 3 times. He could not believe what he was seeing. Next to him, Vexlar looked different than usual. The warrior alien was always confident and strong, but now his face showed something else. He looked afraid. They left everything. the scout captain said over the communication channel. His voice echoed through the council chamber. All their technology, all their weapons, all their buildings, everything is working and in perfect condition. We found no signs of weapons being fired, no biological weapons, no strange readings in space. The humans were just there one moment and then they were gone the next. A council member raised one of her tentacles. What about the humans who were working on alien ships? The ones who lived on our worlds? Another report appeared on the screens. Helen Brooks had disappeared from Meridian's Hope while she was sleeping in her bed. The security cameras showed her lying there 1 second. Then the bed was empty. There was no flash of light, no sound. She was just there, and then she was not. Every human in the galaxy had vanished at the exact same instant. The council chamber became very quiet. For 73 years, humans had been their partners. They had done business together. They had been friends and sometimes rivals. Humans had been loud, creative, stubborn, and impossible to ignore. Now they were gone. They had left behind their empty cities, their quiet ships, and one big question that nobody could answer. Where did humanity go, and why did they not say goodbye? 6 months had passed since humanity vanished. The galaxy was still in shock. The Galactic Council met for the 43rd emergency session since the humans had gone, and Ambassador Kelthier could feel the tension in the air. Everyone was angry, scared, or both. The human colonies belong to us now, declared High Chancellor Drakmar of the Kryn Concordat. His multiple mouths clicked as he spoke. They left their territory behind. We should claim it before someone else takes it. Those are not prizes to be taken, argued Elder Seelith of the Verdant Assembly. Her plant-like body rustled with anger. Those are monuments to a species we called friends. We should protect them and keep them safe. Commander Vexelar slammed his clawed hand on the podium. While you argue about philosophy, we have real problems. Human ships are floating through shipping lanes. Their automated defense systems still think we might be enemies. Their technology is breaking down without anyone to maintain it. We need to make decisions now. Kelthier raised his hand for silence. The Council has given permission for limited intervention. We will secure dangerous technology. We will maintain life support on stations where other species live. We will record and document everything else. But we will not colonize human worlds. Not yet. Many disagreed with this decision, but it was accepted. Barely. The disappearance of humanity had caused huge economic problems across the galaxy. Humans had been the second largest economy. They had been major trading partners with dozens of species. They had created new technology that changed everything from space travel to medicine. Stock markets crashed. Trade routes fell apart. Industries that depended on human goods or knowledge simply stopped working. On an industrial world called Forge 9, factories stood empty and quiet. They had been making parts for human ships. Now there were no buyers. Thousands of alien workers had lost their jobs. They stared at assembly lines that built components for vessels that would never come to pick them up. Dr. Shinthar led a team of scientists who were studying human technology. They were trying to figure out how human inventions worked so they could make them without humans. But human engineering was strange. It was based on creative thinking that other species found hard to copy. Look at this, Dr. Shinthar said, showing Kelthier a human device called a skip drive. It lets ships jump instantly across space using quantum tunneling. We know the basic idea of how it works, but human engineers added dozens of changes that seem unnecessary according to normal physics. But without those changes, the drive does not work. It is like they understood something about reality that we are missing. Can you recreate it? Kelthier asked. Maybe, eventually, but it will take years, perhaps decades. Humans had a way of doing science that was part logic and part art. They would try impossible things just to see what happened. The galaxy was learning just how much it had, depended on human cleverness and innovation. Meanwhile, strange things were starting to happen in human space. Ships that went into the Sol system reported unusual sensor readings. Nothing dangerous, but odd. Space itself seemed different near Earth, as if reality had been changed somehow by humanity's departure, leaving behind an echo of their presence. A SCORE salvage team exploring a human research station on Europa made a disturbing discovery. In one of the laboratories, they found a message burned into the metal wall. Someone had used a plasma cutter to write it in the last hours before the disappearance. The message said, "We are sorry we could not wait for you. The universe is bigger than any of us knew. Follow the breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs. But breadcrumbs to what? What did humans want them to follow? The council gave permission for expeditions to go to remote human research stations. These were places where humans had been doing secret experiments far from other species. What the expeditions found was both helpful and frustrating. On a station orbiting a black hole, human scientists had been studying dimensional physics. Their notes talked about thin places where the walls between different realities became weak. They had found something they called harmonic frequencies that vibrated across dimensional boundaries. On a moon near the Andromeda Relay, humans had built a huge telescope array. But it was not pointed outward at the stars. It was pointed inward at quantum space. They had been looking for something at the smallest possible scale, searching for patterns in the basic structure of reality itself. On a lonely asteroid near a dead star system, investigators found a facility that should not have existed. It was enormous, built in secret, powered by reactors that could run a small planet. Inside were rooms filled with equipment that the best scientists in the galaxy could barely understand. Dr. Shinthar stood in the central control room. Her crystal body reflected the emergency lights in worried colors. This was a testing facility. They were experimenting with something called consciousness coherence at a species level. According to these notes, they believed they could link every human mind into a single unified field. Why would they want to do that? Kelthir asked. The notes are not clear, but there are references to the Great Filter and Transcendence points. I think humanity believed they had reached some kind of evolutionary threshold. Bexelar looked at a holographic display showing the last data recorded by the facility. This spike here is massive, an energy surge that registered across multiple dimensions at the same time. It happened exactly at the moment of the disappearance. They did it here, Kelthir realized. Whatever process removed humanity from our reality, it started from this facility. The discovery made headlines across the entire galaxy. Humanity had not been taken by some enemy or natural disaster. They had jumped. Willingly, all together, they had chosen to leave physical reality behind for something else. But this revelation brought no comfort. If anything, it made the sense of betrayal worse for the species humanity had left behind. On Viridian Prime, Kelthir found himself in a bar where mixed-species crews liked to gather. He listened to the conversations around him. The mood was bitter and angry. They were always so friendly, a Zenthari trader said into his drink, always talking about cooperation and unity, about building a better future together, and all along they were planning to leave us behind. Good riddance, growled a Kryn merchant. Let them go to whatever higher plane they think they found. We do not need them anyway. But a young Quillian pilot spoke up quietly. Her feathers still showed signs that she was growing. My mentor was human, Captain Danny Foster. He taught me everything about navigation and reading the stars. He said humans were explorers at heart. He said they could never resist a frontier. She looked up with shining eyes. Maybe that is what this was, the ultimate frontier, and they could not help but leap toward it. Kelthir left the bar and walked through the empty human district of the station. The shops were dark. The apartments were vacant. Here and there, other species had started moving in, but it felt wrong. It was like wearing a dead person's clothes before the body was cold. He stopped at a small memorial that had been built in the central plaza. It was simple, just a holographic image of Earth rotating slowly above a metal plaque. The plaque read, "To humanity, partners, friends, rivals, dreamers, you left us behind, but we will remember." Already people had left offerings at the base of the memorial. There were flowers from a dozen different worlds, photographs, letters, a child's drawing of a human and an alien holding hands. The galaxy was grieving, even as it struggled to survive without the humans who had helped build it. And in the silence they left behind, one question echoed louder than all the others. Had humanity found something wonderful, or had they made a terrible mistake? And if they had found something better, would they ever think to look back at what they had left behind? 5 years had passed since humanity vanished. The galaxy had split into different groups, each with their own ideas about what to do. Ambassador Kelthir stood at the observation deck of Unity Station, looking out at space. Far away, so far he could barely see it, was the sun of the Sol system. Earth was out there somewhere, empty but waiting. Around him, the galaxy was making a choice that humanity had forced upon them. To leap or to stay, to evolve or to endure. The Verdant Assembly had been the first to seriously try humanity's path. Their plant-based minds were already connected through root networks and chemical signals. They found the transition to unified awareness almost natural. They spent 3 years preparing their entire species. Every member practiced meditation and consciousness expansion together. Then, on a spring morning by their planet's calendar, they made the jump. Kelthier had watched the recordings many times. One moment, billions of verdant beings stood in their garden cities connected hand to leaf. The next moment, they were gone. Just like humanity, their empty cities bloomed with flowers that no one tended. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. They left behind a message, short and peaceful. We understand now. The garden grows in infinite directions. Thank you, humanity, for showing us the way. 2 species gone. 2 civilizations transformed into something the rest of the galaxy could not follow or understand. The Score hegemony had taken a different approach. They chose volunteers, warriors who wanted to explore a new frontier. Using the human methods, they sent small groups through the dimensional barrier. Unlike the full species jumps, these partial transitions sometimes failed. 3 crews vanished without leaving any trace or message. But the 4th group succeeded. Commander Vexlar, old now but still fierce, had been among them. Before he left, he had visited Kelthier one last time. I have to know, Vexlar had said. I have to see what they saw. I have to understand what made them leave everything behind. You might not come back, Kelthier had warned him. That is the point. If I come back, I will tell you if it is worth the cost. If I do not come back, well, at least I will have my answer. Vexlar and his team had jumped 3 months ago. No word since then. The Luminar, beings made of living crystal, took a scientific approach. Dr. Shinthar led a research program to create a 2-way bridge, a method to cross into higher dimensions and return. They believed consciousness could be expanded without giving up physical form completely. Their experiments produced strange results. Test subjects reported experiencing multiple realities at the same time. They saw colors that did not exist. They heard mathematics as if it were music. Some went mad. Others claimed they had found enlightenment. None could properly explain what they had experienced. It is like trying to describe 3 dimensions to a being that only knows 2, Dr. Shinthar explained during her latest report. Our language, our concepts, our entire way of understanding is not enough for what exists beyond the barrier. The Kryn Concordat and several other species took a harder position. They declared the human technology forbidden, a temptation that would destroy galactic civilization. They closed their borders to any species doing experiments with consciousness transfer. They began a campaign they called preservation. We were made to exist in this reality, High Chancellor Drakmar said in a public speech. To abandon the physical universe is to reject the natural order. It is better to live and die as we were meant than to transform into something we do not recognize. Many species agreed with them. Having seen the verdant disappear after humanity, they feared a cascade effect. If everyone chased transcendence, who would be left? Who would remember the physical universe and everything in it? Kelthier found himself in the middle of heated arguments. The Galactic Council, once unified, now split into groups. The Leapers who wanted to follow humanity, the Seekers who wanted to understand before deciding, and the Stalwarts who refused to consider it at all. We are tearing ourselves apart, Council Member Jara said, during a private meeting with Kelthier. Her water-like form rippled with worry. Humanity did not just leave. They planted a bomb that is destroying everything we built. Or they opened a door, Kelthier said back. Is that not what we are really afraid of? That they were right to leave? That the physical universe is just a starting point, not an ending? The question haunted him. In his darker moments, Kelthier wondered if humanity had been selfish or visionary. Had they abandoned the galaxy or freed it from limits it did not know existed? A breakthrough came from an unexpected place. The hybrid children. Kelly Palmer, now a young woman, had grown into a brilliant physicist despite being part human. She and others like her, beings born of 2 species, had been studying the human data with a unique view. We are stuck thinking in either-or terms, Kelly explained at a special council meeting. Leap or stay, physical or transcendent. But what if there is a middle path? She showed research suggesting that consciousness could expand without fully leaving physical reality. By keeping a presence in both dimensions, beings could experience transcendence while keeping a connection to the material world. Think of it like diving underwater, she said. You go deep, experience a completely different environment, but you always come back up. We could become beings that exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. Dr. Shinthar's crystal form flashed with excitement. The hybrid children might naturally have this ability. Their mixed heritage could make them bridges between realities. The theory created a new project. Rather than choosing between evolution and preservation, maybe the galaxy could achieve both. Physical civilization could continue while individuals or groups explored higher dimensions, keeping communication between realms. It was ambitious, maybe impossible, but it was hope. Kelthir gave permission for the hybrid bridge project with Kelly Palmer as the lead researcher. If it worked, it would transform the crisis humanity had caused into an opportunity for growth like never before. But not everyone was happy. Extremists on both sides saw the compromise as betrayal. The true leapers believed anything less than full transcendence was cowardice. The stalwart purists saw any dimensional exploration as corruption and sin. Terrorist attacks began. A leaper cult bombed a research station that refused to study consciousness transfer. Stalwart extremists killed scientists working on the hybrid bridge project. The galaxy was at war with itself over humanity's legacy. On the 7th anniversary of the disappearance, Kelthir sat in his office. He was older and more tired than he ever thought he would be. The galaxy he had known was gone, replaced by something stranger and more dangerous. A message came through on his private channel. Audio only, but the voice made him drop his datapad in shock. Ambassador Kelthir, this is Commander Vexler. I am back, sort of. It is complicated. We need to talk. 20 minutes later, Kelthir stood in a sealed laboratory staring at something impossible. It looked like Vexlar. It moved like him. It spoke with his voice. But scans showed his body was only partly physical, appearing and disappearing from normal space every few seconds. I found them, Vexlar said. His voice echoed strangely. Humanity. The verdant. Others we do not know about. They exist in spaces between spaces, experiencing reality in ways I can barely describe. They are happy, Ambassador, free in ways we cannot imagine. Can they come back? Kelthir asked. They do not want to, but they are aware of us, watching, hoping we will figure it out. Vexlar's form flickered like a bad hologram. Kelly Palmer is right. There is a middle way. But it needs trust, courage, and acceptance that we will never be the same once we take that step. Is it worth it? Vexlar's fierce eyes, the only part of him that looked truly solid, met Kelthir's gaze. That is the question every species has to answer for themselves. But I can tell you this. Humanity did not leave because they were running away. They left because they were running toward something magnificent. As Vexlar's form faded, moving back to the higher dimension, Kelthir was left alone with the weight of decision. The galaxy stood at a turning point. Some species would leap, following humanity into transcendence. Others would stay, keeping physical civilization alive. And maybe, if Kelly Palmer's research worked, some would learn to walk between worlds, becoming something new entirely. Humanity had vanished without farewell or warning, leaving only silence and questions. But in that silence, they had also left possibility. The possibility that evolution was not finished, that consciousness could expand beyond flesh and bone, that the universe held more wonders than anyone had dared imagine. 7 years ago, Kelthir had stood in a conference hall wondering where humanity had gone. Now he understood. They had gone everywhere and nowhere, into dimensions of existence that made words meaningless. The real question was not where humanity had gone, it was whether the rest of the galaxy had the courage to follow. Kelthir turned to his computer and began writing a message to the council. In it, he would recommend supporting the hybrid bridge project, opening the path for species to choose their own destiny. Some would leap, some would stay, some would learn to do both. And maybe, just maybe, that was what humanity had wanted all along. Not to abandon the galaxy, but to show it that there were no limits except the ones they accepted. No farewell. No warning, just silence, but in that silence, an invitation. 3 weeks had passed since the humans disappeared. The Galactic Council created a special team to investigate what happened. They called it the Human Investigation Task Force. Ambassador Kelthir was put in charge, even though he did not want the job. He stood in the human embassy on Viridian Prime, looking at a desk where Ambassador Lisa Grant used to sit. Just 1 month ago, she had been there arguing about mining rights. She had been so alive, so passionate about her work. Now her coffee mug still sat on the desk with a stain on it. Next to it was a data pad with a message she had been writing to her daughter on Europa. The message stopped in the middle of a sentence. It was like she had just vanished while typing. Dr. Shinthar stood beside Kelthir. She was a Luminar scientist, and her body was made of crystal that reflected light in rainbow colors. She was very smart, one of the best scientists in the galaxy. We have looked at over 10,000 places where humans disappeared, Dr. Shinthar said. Every single place shows the same thing. No energy signatures, no signs of molecular disruption, no time problems. One moment humans were there, and the next moment they were not. Commander Vexlar was pacing back and forth in the room. His tail moved sharply behind him, showing he was frustrated. This makes no sense. You cannot remove 90 billion people at the same time across thousands of light years without leaving some kind of trace. It breaks every law of physics we know. Kelthir picked up a photograph from Lisa Grant's desk. It showed her with her family at a beach on Earth. They were all smiling in the sunshine. Maybe that is the point, he said quietly. Maybe we do not understand the physics involved. The investigation had found some strange details. Every human had vanished at exactly the same moment, when you adjusted for the speed of light and gravity. Humans on fast-moving ships, humans near strong gravity, humans scattered across the galaxy all disappeared at the same point in time. The level of coordination needed for this was incredible. One human ship called the Vanguard had been watched closely by a score patrol when it happened. The video footage showed the human crew doing their normal work. Then, in a single frame of video, they were simply gone. The ship kept flying on its path, now empty and piloted by no one. What about their computers? Kelthir asked. Did we find anything in their databases? Dr. Shinthar's colors changed to a worried purple. That is where things get interesting. Human computers show no signs that data was deleted or damaged. But we found something strange in their most secure military and science databases. A hologram appeared above the desk, showing lines of computer code. To Kelthir, it looked like any other program. He did not understand it. This code was added to their quantum communication network about 6 months before they disappeared, Dr. Shinthar explained. It is very sophisticated and changes itself. It was almost invisible to normal scanning. We only found it because we were looking at the atomic level of their storage systems. What does it do? Vexlar demanded. We are not completely sure yet, but it appears to have been counting down to a specific date and time, the moment of the disappearance. The room became silent as everyone understood what this meant. They planned this, Kelthir said in a low voice. Humanity planned their own disappearance. Over the next few weeks, the investigation found more evidence. Deep in the files of human scientists, they found theoretical papers about something called Project Exodus. Most of the information had been blocked out, but what remained painted a picture. Humans had been researching ways to manipulate dimensions, transfer consciousness, and something they called mass ascension protocols. A team searched a secret human research facility on Titan, one of Saturn's moons. They found laboratories full of equipment that even the galaxy's best scientists could not fully understand. There were notes talking about successful trials and unified field harmonization, but all the important data had been erased. They were getting ready for years, Vexlar growled. He hit his fist on a laboratory table. While they sat in council meetings, while they made trade deals with us, while they smiled and shook our hands, they were planning to leave us behind. Kelthir could not argue with him. The evidence was clear. Humanity had not been victims of something. They had been planning their own vanishing act for a long time. But why? That was the question that bothered the investigation. Humanity had been doing well. Their economy was strong. Their people were healthy. Their influence in the galaxy was growing. They had friends, and even their enemies respected them. There was no crisis, no threat, no clear reason to do something this extreme. Unless they knew something we did not, Dr. Shinthar suggested during a late-night work session. What if they saw something coming? Some threat or event that made them decide to leave? The thought was scary. If something had frightened humanity enough to abandon everything, what chance did the rest of the galaxy have against it? Kelthir gave permission for a deeper investigation into human space data. What had their telescopes been looking at? What had their deep space probes found? The answer was confusing. Human sensors had been scanning the entire universe, but they had shared all their discoveries with the Council. There were no secret findings, no hidden threats that other species did not already know about. At least there were no records of any. They could have deleted the evidence, Vexilar pointed out. If they were planning this for years, they would have covered their tracks. Kelthier nodded slowly. He stared at a star map that had hung in Lisa Grant's office. Earth was at the center, surrounded by all the human colonies and stations. All of them were now empty monuments to a species that had simply walked away. We need to talk to someone who knew them better than most, Kelthier decided. Is there a mixed species family anywhere? Someone who was close to humans? Dr. Shinthar's colors brightened. Yes. On the border colony of Harmony's End, there is a Quillian woman named Maressa. She was married to a human named Frank Palmer for 20 years. They had hybrid children through genetic procedures. What happened to her husband? Gone, like all the others. But the children are only part human, so they stayed. They might know something. 3 days later, Kelthier stood in a small house on Harmony's End. He was facing a woman whose feathers had lost their shine from sadness. Maressa's children watched him with careful eyes. They were strange and beautiful, combining bird-like features with human characteristics. He never said anything, Maressa whispered. Her voice sounded empty and hollow. Frank never warned me. The night before it happened, he held me and told me he loved me. He played with the children. We made plans for next week, and then he was just gone. Her oldest child, a girl about 12 years old named Kelly, spoke up. Dad was different in the last few months. He seemed distracted. He would stare at the sky sometimes like he was listening to something we could not hear. Did he have any unusual communications? Did he meet with other humans privately? Maressa nodded slowly. There were calls. They were encrypted. He would take them in his study, and I never asked about them. I trusted him. Her voice broke. I thought we had more time. Kelthier felt sympathy for her pain. Did he leave anything behind? Notes or messages? Kelly left the room and came back with a small box. Inside was a handwritten letter on real paper, not digital. This was unusual for humans in the modern age. But some of them still liked old-fashioned things. Kelthier read the letter out loud. My dearest Maressa and children, if you are reading this, then I am gone and I cannot explain why. Please know that I loved you with every piece of my soul. What we do now, we do not out of hate or abandonment, but out of necessity. The path we walk is not one you can follow, not yet. Be patient, be kind, and look to the stars. One day you will understand. Frank. The letter was dated 2 years before the disappearance. Frank Palmer had known this was coming for at least that long. As Kelthier left the grieving family behind, he felt the weight of the mystery pressing down on him. Humanity had planned their exit very carefully. They had said goodbye in their own way while telling nothing important. They had left behind their technology, their art, their empty homes, but they had taken all their secrets with them into whatever silence they had disappeared into. 2 years had passed since humanity disappeared. Something was about to change. Lieutenant Cora Shin was a Zenthari deep space surveyor. She was doing routine scans of a nebula in what used to be human territory, when her instruments found something odd. It was faint, barely stronger than background radiation, but her experience told her it was not natural. Someone had made it? Control, this is Survey Ship 972. She sent a message back to the research station. I am picking up a structured signal from coordinates marked as former human research outpost Zeta 15. But according to our records, that facility was abandoned 3 years before the disappearance. Confirmed, 972. That station should be completely dead. Go investigate and report back. Cora moved her ship toward the coordinates. Her 3 hearts beat faster with each passing moment. The outpost hung in space like a dead thing, dark and silent. But the signal was definitely coming from inside. She docked her ship carefully and made her way through corridors with no air. Her suit lights cut through the darkness. The facility was small, just a dozen rooms built into a hollowed-out asteroid. Everything was covered in a fine layer of ice from when the life support had failed years ago. The signal led her to a central computer core. Against all reason, it was active. It was powered by some internal battery that should have died long ago. A message was playing on repeat, waiting for someone to find it. Cora turned on the display and a human face appeared. It was a male, middle-aged, with kind eyes and tired features. According to the identification tag, his name was Dr. Nathan Price. If you are watching this, then we succeeded. The recorded message began. Humanity has moved beyond the physical plane. By now you have probably realized we planned this. You might be angry. I do not blame you. Dr. Price leaned back in his chair. The gesture looked so human, so natural. Let me tell you a story. 50 years ago, we detected something, not with telescopes or sensors, but with experiments in quantum consciousness. We found evidence of other realities layered over our own, dimensions where the rules are different, where beings exist as pure information, pure thought. The recording changed to show complex equations and diagrams that hurt Cora's eyes to look at. We realized that physical reality is just one frequency of existence, like a radio stuck on one station. But consciousness, true awareness, can be tuned. With enough coordination, enough unified will, a species can shift its entire existence to a different frequency. Dr. Price's face became serious. We spent decades researching, testing, preparing. We knew we could not tell the rest of the galaxy. Some species would have tried to stop us. Others would have tried to follow before they were ready. And some would have seen it as a weapon, a way to erase enemies from existence. Cora felt a chill run through her body. He was right. Any of those situations would have been terrible, so we kept it secret. We built the infrastructure quietly. We prepared every human, slowly, carefully, adjusting our collective consciousness over generations. And when we were ready, we jumped. The recording paused. Dr. Price seemed to look directly at Cora through the screen. We left this message and others like it because you deserve to know the truth. We did not leave because we hated you or thought you were less than us. We left because we could, because the opportunity was before us, and because saying no to transcendence would have been denying everything that makes humanity human. But here is the important part. The path we took is not exclusive to us. Every species with enough consciousness can make this journey. The equations are in this database. The techniques are recorded. We are leaving you the breadcrumbs. Cora's hands shook as she began downloading the data. We are leaving you the map to follow if you choose. But understand this. The jump is not just about technology. It requires unity of purpose across an entire species. Every individual must choose to go, must be ready to let go of physical form, must trust in the collective. That is why we could not take your mixed species families. That is why humans in relationships with other species stayed behind or were pulled along. The process requires complete species coherence. The recording flickered. Dr. Price smiled sadly. I know this does not make our departure easier. We left friends behind, loved ones, partners who depended on us. That guilt is something we will carry into whatever comes next. But we also left you something valuable, proof that evolution does not end with biology, that consciousness can go beyond flesh, that there are frontiers beyond anything we imagined. What you do with this information is up to you. Follow us or make your own path. But know that out there, in dimensions you cannot yet see, humanity is still exploring, still pushing boundaries, still being human. And maybe one day we will meet again on the other side. The recording ended. The computer core immediately began transferring its entire database to Cora's ship. Massive amounts of information poured in. Scientific papers, experimental results, consciousness transfer protocols, dimensional harmonics equations, and step-by-step instructions for achieving what humanity had called the Great Leap. Cora sat in the silent station for a long time, staring at the dark screen. Humanity had left them a gift, the ultimate gift and the ultimate burden, the knowledge of how to leave everything behind. When she returned to the research station, Cora immediately contacted Ambassador Kelthir. Within hours, the discovery became the top priority of the Galactic Council. Dr. Shinthar led a team of scientists in analyzing the human data. What they found was revolutionary. Humans had indeed discovered a method to shift consciousness into higher dimensional existence. But the process was very complex. It required not just technology but mental and spiritual preparation. They spent 3 generations preparing their population, Dr. Shinthar reported to the council, teaching meditation techniques, unity exercises, collective consciousness practices. They turned their entire species into a single, harmonized entity capable of making the jump together. Can other species do this? Kelthir asked. In theory, yes. The physics are sound, but it would require cooperation like never before. Every member of a species would need to agree, to prepare to let go of individualism for the moment of transition. And there is no guarantee of what is on the other side. The council chamber exploded with debate. Some species saw the human discovery as a miracle, the next step in evolution. Others saw it as madness, giving up the physical universe for an unknown existence. The Kryn Concordat immediately declared the technology forbidden and banned all research into it. The Verdant Assembly began a society-wide discussion about whether to try the Great Leap. The Score, true to their warrior nature, wanted to master the technology but use it carefully, sending explorers rather than the whole species. Kelthir found himself in an unexpected position. He was now the guardian of humanity's final secret, the knowledge that could transform the galaxy or tear it apart. He returned to Lisa Grant's old office, now his workspace. He stared at her family photo. Somewhere in some dimension he could not see, humanity existed. Changed, transcended, but still out there. "You could not just stay and help us figure this out together," he said to the empty room. "You had to leap first and leave us to catch up." But as he looked at the equations on his screen, the proof that reality was so much bigger than they had known, Kelthir felt something unexpected. Not anger. Not betrayal. Modern humanity had done what humanity always did. They pushed the boundaries. They took the risk. They jumped into the unknown with both feet. And they had left a map for anyone brave enough to follow. The question now was simple but huge. Which species would take that leap next? And would they find humanity waiting on the other side? Or discover that the path forward led somewhere else entirely?